Welcome to today's podcast. My name is Perla Drewer and I will be your host. Today's podcast guests are Dean Wentzell, who's the Safety and Site Services Manager at Moosehead Breweries in St. John, and Jamie Pellegrin, who's the Director of Quality and Food Safety at Moosehead Breweries. Now, I hope, gentlemen, I have those job titles correct. Organizations seem to love to change titles, seem to do it quite often. I assume those are correct?
Yeah, for me, it's just the Director of Safety as well.
Director of Safety as well. Gentlemen, Dean, I guess I'll put the first question to you. What are your current responsibilities at Moosehead?
So I guess it's a dual role for me as the title shows. I look after the safety management system here at Moosehead, as well as the site services part, which is in more common terms would probably be a facilities manager. So I look after the building and the safety program as well.
Now, how about you, Jamie? What are your responsibilities? How do you fit into Dean's?
Yeah, so Dean's kind of the day-to-day, manages the safety program, day-to-day on safety and day-to-day with site services. I'm kind of the director responsible for safety, food safety, and quality. My main focus would be on quality and food safety within the brewery, and that includes everything from raw materials, consumables, to finished product out the door.
Okay. Now, Jamie, you've been around Moosehead for how many years now?
Coming up on 17.
17 years.
Yeah.
So, if you think back to those 17 years, what have been the biggest changes you've seen at Moosehead over those 17 years?
I think for me, it's when I first started, we did a lot of safety training, OHS training, which you were involved in as well. And at that time, what I saw coming from the marketplace for employees was not a lot of training within the school system or a lot of in-house training within companies. Now what I'm seeing is we get employees right from school or summer students with a lot of the basic safety training covered. So, WMIS, talking about reporting incidents, that type of thing. I'm kind of seeing that more prevalent with newer employees coming in.
Now, Dean, I'll put a few questions over to you now. Again, people always are curious. You get a big company like Moosehead. How big is your health and safety training group?
Well, you're looking at us. We're both fairly big fellas, but we're the safety department, I guess, as you would say. And I guess one of the things most people assume is Moosehead is a huge company, but really in the big scheme of things, we're not a really large organization. I think we max out employees at around 300 employees, and that covers across the country in our sales and marketing departments throughout the country. Here in St. John, we're probably 250-ish, I would say, and then we have other departments in small warehouse fairly large warehouse, but small amount of employees in Toronto, and then we have sales teams in each of the other provinces as well.
Now, another topic people often ask me about onboarding. What would you folks do when it comes to onboarding for new employees?
So we do. So again, we have different, levels of safety training and orientation and onboarding with different categories of employees. So we would have our sales and marketing. We take a different approach with those people because obviously there's different hazards and different risks within their job scopes. Then we have our, operations people, which is obviously a lot more intense because the risk level and the safety training required is much higher with those people. And then we have another group that we bring in, which would be our students. We bring in a large number of safety students or students that need safety training during the summer. And we take a little bit different approach with them as well. So it depends on the group. But overall, We spend a lot of time making sure that they understand what's required of them on a safety standpoint. We do that day one when they come to the facility, and then we do a group onboarding later on, and again, then we review some more of our safety policies, procedures, and rules, and later on as a larger group, probably about a month in usually.
Yeah. And Pearlie, that just kind of follow up with what Dean's saying. We do the initial orientation depending on where the employee's going for a department. So it could be a 1-day classroom sessions combination with some online courses, and then a follow-up, or it could be as an intensive, 2 or 3 days with students with a lot of hands-on, because a lot of them are new to the facility. So more hands-on with that group. And then the onboarding that Dean talked about is something that we've started here probably the last couple of years, where about once a quarter, we get all the employees that were hired within that one quarter across the country. They come together to Moosehead for about a 3 or 4 day onboarding. And that includes everything from going over the quality, what food safety is, safety, sales and marketing, procurement. It kind of goes through all the departments and onboards the employee to Moosehead Breweries and what Moosehead does. So it's kind of an intense 2 to 3 day program, but the feedback's been really good, and it kind of brings everybody together from across the country as well.
Now, one issue I'm hearing just about everywhere I go these days, companies having a tough time recruiting. How has that been at Moosehead? Comments, I guess, from both of you.
Yeah, I think it's what we've seen a number of a drop, I guess, in numbers of when we put things out to people. If we'll put an application out for packaging operators or sales reps or whatever it would be, and we would see a large number of employees. So I think the first time we did it a few years ago, we had thousands of people apply, and like in the 5,000s. And to sort through that, like Dean said, with a small company takes a long time. Now, a lot less. The only thing I would say is with the people that we do get, we're seeing an increase in the education level of the people that do apply, which is kind of keeps our HR team. For us, recruiting is more or less done by the HR group. We kind of interview anybody that comes in after HR's done their kind of, first orientation with them or first contact. But yeah, no, it's and some of the skilled labor sets are a little bit tougher. That's the competition's pretty steep, so it's a little bit tougher with that group.
So what are you seeing, Dean? Same thing or something different?
Yeah, I would say that it's mainly the same thing. I know that we're seeing a lot more diversity in our staff over the last few years. I would say that's probably pretty common in most areas. So that's good. But yeah, I think all companies now are competing for employees. So you have to stand out, and it's tough.
Now, when it comes to training, do you folks have any system that you use, or is it an in-house system that you use to track your training?
Yeah, it's an in-house system. It's basically an Excel spreadsheet. It's a intense Excel spreadsheet, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. We have other systems within our training, online training that we do that tracks some of that training, but where we have to add training from outside sources, contract training, in order to keep it all in one spot, we have to move everything to one area. So it's very time consuming, and I don't think we've found the solution to that yet. But as long as we're contracting training out at different organizations, it's hard to just keep it in one spot. So unless you manually enter the data.
Now, Jamie, you've been around, again, 17 years, you mentioned. What are some of the biggest issues you see now, even relative to training of staff? And do you have any sort of preferences as to type of training that you've discovered over the years works best at Moosehead?
Yeah, I find we tried all kinds of different angles. Like Dean was mentioning, we have outside contractors that come in. We do evaluations of the outside contractors to see if our employees like a particular trainer or like the style, or get some feedback. Myself, we kind of have a combination of a little bit online with an internal system that we use from IT that allows us to create some courses that are very specific for Moosehead. But I also one-on-one training or trainer training where someone's actually in a group with the classroom in combination with some hands-on. That's my preference. And like Dean was saying, especially when you have a lot of different people from different parts of the world, and you have to make sure the training is good for everybody in that classroom. So you may have, especially when you're doing orientations with mechanics and electricians with technical backgrounds and people with operations backgrounds, and then salespeople all in the same room at the same time. You kind of have to have a combination of training that touches base with everybody. You can't be too technical for people that really don't need that technical side, but you also want to make it a little bit interactive with people involved. So when they leave, that training's in their brain. They've remembered what you've said. And I think what Dean and I have done here, you get a lot of feedback afterwards, maybe months later. Oh, that thing you said, I remember that now because, we did it, or something like that. So it's kind of nice to have that feedback. But I find having a person physically there training and doing some on the job things, even if it's just a tour route where you actually take the students around and show them all the different areas, even though they may not work there, I think really hits home for me. I think that's my opinion, the best way to do it.
What are your thoughts on that, Dean? Training.
Yeah, I would say my preference would be as much in-person, face-to-face training versus the online. I mean, some things are good to do online, but I like to. It's hard to judge what people are taking out of the training if you don't get to see what's there. You can get a lot of the person's facial expressions or maybe a small comment that you wouldn't get if they were doing the training online. So it does help us, I guess, confirm their understanding of what we're trying to get across to them. So I much prefer the in person.
So the next question for you, Dean, supervision of employees. WorkSafe made a number of changes to the legislation, to the act here a couple of years ago, really putting a lot more accountability on supervisors. How have you gone about to respond to that and to make sure your supervisors have the knowledge that they need?
So we put one of our training programs that we put together was specifically for supervisors and making them aware of their responsibilities as a supervisor when it comes to legislation. So we've spent some extra time putting together those sessions with them. And again, it's something that we review on a yearly basis. We go over it with them, make sure that they understand. And again, that position's no different. We're, constantly, looking for new staff. We have, roles that people are always in some sort of a supervisory or management role. So, a lot of people come in and they don't really understand how they are responsible on the legislative side of things for health and safety.
So, Jamie, food safety, something I guess a lot of us are more familiar with perhaps the side of the business that Dean's involved with is sort of day-to-day organizational safety. Tell us a little more about what's all involved in food safety.
Yeah, so it's kind of a fun topic for me to talk about. I've been involved in quality since I started working at breweries a long time ago. I won't mention how long because, but a long time. A lot of people think quality and food safety are the same thing, and they're not. And if you look at it from a simple way to remember it, food safety and food quality is one ensures that consumers are safe, and the other ensures the consumers are satisfied. So if you buy a pack of beer or a case of beer, are the labels on right? Does it look good? Do the graphics, colors all appealing? From a quality standpoint, is the flavor profile the same? Is it, if you buy a case of Moose Lager, does it taste like Moose Lager every time you buy that? That's the quality side of things. Food safety is, basically it's a management system for the entire brewery to, control everything that goes in and everything that goes out to ensure the consumers are safe. So, for example, we would, returnable bottles. We wash the returnable bottles with a caustic solution and we rinse them. But we have to have measures in place to make sure that there's nothing in that bottle as it goes from the bottle washer and rinser to the filler to ensure that the product is going to be a quality product, but not also have anything in there that potentially would make somebody sick. That's kind of the whole difference of it. So the one thing that I dealt with safety for a while here. I'm still involved in it, but if you look at safety, quality, and food safety, very similar on how you control things, how you set up your programs, and how you monitor and audit. So, you can do a walk around in your department and you can look for safety issues, okay, or hazards. The same thing with quality, same thing with food safety. Right? You could say, I walked into a room and there's a cord on the floor. I could potentially trip over that. So that's a hazard. But if I'm near an area where someone is offloading an ingredient, are the buckets in the area clean? Is there anything in those buckets that could contaminate the product? Is there an overhead drip that could get into that product? Not so much safety side, but it's the same process of audits and checks and balances. So, and paper trails. That's the other part of it too.
So what's a typical day look like for you, Jamie?
A typical day for me, I think to be consistent, first thing I do when I get in is I check all the daily reports, and all the daily, information shift reports from the previous, shifts. So if I leave here at 5:00, I kind of monitor with my phone, throughout the afternoon. And then the next morning I could, do a quick scan check to make sure that all the food safety, all the quality, all the safety stuff's been addressed in emails I have to respond to. And that takes about an hour or so in the morning. And then I do a walkabout in the departments to see how people are doing, how my area is doing. I kind of manage the quality department, which has 9 people in it. I want to make sure they're all good for the day. And then the rest of the time and that's kind of what we call working in. So you're in the actual business doing things. And then stepping back from that is now working on the business. So that's the long range planning, dealing with, what are we going to do next year? What are the things we have to do in 5 years? What are the things from now until then do we have to get in place? So a lot of meetings and planning, and, trying to get pricing for things, that type of stuff within the group. So, but all that being said, I think we all understand as safety professionals that, one thing happens and that all goes away. That's my typical day.
What about you, Dean? What's your typical day look like?
I would say very similar. Start the day off making sure that there's no immediate attention needed anywhere for whether that's on the facilities site service side with an issue, or whether there was an immediate safety issue that needs to be dealt with. Usually check through emails, phone calls, texts first. Then same as Jamie. Then I kind of hit the floor and get out, have a walk around the facility. Usually talk with some of the employees. People will usually wave you over if they have any comments or concerns. They know who I am when they see me coming, so they make sure they wave me over and let me know what's going on. So I get to kind of get the feedback from the employees. So we start with that at the beginning of the day. There's really no typical day, I guess. Things change without a moment's notice, I guess you could say. You got to work quick on your feet, I guess, around here. So there's lots on the go. So just get some time to review. Hopefully, you try to get some time to review policies and spend some time, entering data, training, looking over hazard identifications that were submitted. We keep up on that. That's all the data that you get a chance to look at later. It all just runs in with the course of the day, and you just try to take care of the most immediate issues quick, and that's the day.
Yeah.
And it goes fast.
Yeah, and I'll put the next question to you then, Dean. The next 3 to 5 years, what would you see as your biggest challenge when it comes to health and safety? Where would be your biggest challenge?
Challenges, I think probably just to continue training people on. I think one of the biggest things in safety is hazard recognition and taking care of your bigger risk situation. So it's, we forget as safety people that we have a different understanding of hazards and risk than your average employee. And in order for us to make real progress, I think it's trying to teach people that same understanding of what we know about hazards and risks. Because everybody has a different perception of what risk is or what hazard is, and different tolerances as well. So what does somebody, I may think is a hazard or a large risk, and then we're bringing in employees that don't even think of something as a hazard or a risk. So it's continuing to get that message across and training people to recognize those things.
How about you, Jamie? What do you see as your biggest challenge in the next 3 to 5?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like to follow up a little bit on the training side with what Dean's saying is that, when you have a company that transitions. I mean, we just recently went through some retirements, so there's a lot of seniority and knowledge that leave, and then you have a new group of people that come in, and it's that your basic level of safety training at Moosehead has kind of now dropped back down, and you have to rebuild it back up. It's kind of like a cycle. So you're constantly, if you bring new people in, you have to bring them up to where the people that were here, were. Because some of the basic things, like Dean said, they may not think, well, that's not an issue. Well, it is, because maybe where they were before, they were never exposed to that type of hazard or what that would be. If someone's never worked in an area where CO2 is present, because you can't see it, taste it, feel it, how harmful can it be? So then you have to now educate people on what that is, what the precautions we have in place, and the things they have to do to be safe within the facility. And I think the another one I see is just the legislation updates and the changes that they're coming. They seem to be, a while back, you would get a few pieces of legislation changed and updated, and now the updates include 7 or 8 different things. And, a lot of newer ones are coming on a little bit faster. So it's trying to keep up with what our program does, and then being able to change that or adjust that if something changes in the legislation. Because it's evolving a lot faster than it used to be. Before, when I first started in the safety role, you would have a few pieces of legislation every once in a while. And now it seems every year you're getting 4 or 5 pieces of legislation and then new legislation on top of that when it comes to, new things coming out. So, it's good in one way, but it keeps you on your toes and you have to keep evolving your programs.
Yeah, you need to listen to our last podcast where we talked to WorkSafe NB about that topic. And one of my questions I put to them was, how do businesses keep up with so many changes coming out at the same time? And that's a real challenge, I think, for everyone. One last question. Here in Fredericton, craft breweries are big everywhere you go. There seems to be one, people joke on every corner. How does that affect you at Moosehead from the point of view of your competition with craft breweries?
From my perspective, I think it's great to have a lot of different, products out there for people to try. I would put my product or our products against anybody's. And I think, if you have someone that may not be a beer drinker because of their location or wherever they're at, if they have a local place they can go to, and maybe try something that's different and then compare it to us, competitions is healthy. A lot of the brewers we actually know, so that's, it's a good thing there. But, I think just bringing everybody up with the level of knowledge around beer and what beer can be is great. I mean, we've also had to change a little bit. I mean, not change, but evolve. And we've got a lot of different products that are out there that kind of meet the market demand, but, and having different people to choose from and collaborations and all that stuff is great. The brewing industry is the craft brewing industry is similar to safety where there's not a lot of hidden stuff. People aren't going to say, don't come here and see our place. We've invited craft brewers to our small batch brewery in-house and just said, come take a look and see what we do. And we've gone to other places as well. And, just like with safety, if you ask someone from another company about a safety procedure or process that they're using that would help you, it's shared. It's not like, oh, it's a trade secret. We can't give you that. It's shared. So a lot of the breweries actually work together and help each other out because things come up and things happen. You may be short on something or miss a part or something, and you can talk with each other. And I think Moosehead the size of Moosehead helps us with working with the smaller craft breweries, and developing a relationship with them. And I think it's pretty good. The more that's out there for people to consume and try, the more likely they may go and say, I'm going to try something different. So maybe if they don't drink Moosehead, they may see a product that we offer and say, hey, I wouldn't mind trying that. I had one of those at this small craft brewery that I liked, and this is similar. I may try that now. So
now, Dean, over to you. As a brewery like yours adds more and more products, does that present more and more challenges to you from a safety point of view?
Yes, there's definitely challenges with more products because it's more changeovers on the process line in the production area. There's we've added some new equipment to even with packaging sizes. So you go from a 6-pack to a 30-pack or 24-pack. There's more changeovers. So there's anytime you get people interacting with machinery, there's risk there, right? There's hazards and risks. So more products means more changeovers, more interaction with the equipment. So yes, absolutely adds a little bit of extra risk to the safety department.
One last question, guys. This is a personal question. What's the ratio of cans to bottles these days? Can anybody
answer this one?
It's getting towards around 80% cans, 75% cans.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why is that now?
Not exactly sure. I mean, there's a lot of differences, for right away, cans are a little bit easier to transport. They're a lot easier to cool down. That's a bigger factor. So if you're you're traveling to the cabin for the weekend or something to pick up a 24 pack of cans, it's a lot lighter. It's a lot easier to handle. And they cool down a lot quicker. Yeah, and that's just not here in New Brunswick. That's pretty much across Canada and North America. Big switch to cans, from bottles.
So the last question to you, Dean, cans versus bottles. Does it make any difference to you from a health and safety point of view on the production?
Well, the bottles have their own hazards because it's glass, of course, and then broken glass is cuts, and so there's hazards there that we don't have with the cans. But again, it's all about making sure that you recognize those hazards and putting the controls in place to take care of it. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today. Certainly appreciate your feedback and your comments. If any of our listeners would like to send us comments, you can reach us at pearly@ssnb.ca. Again, thank you very much, and listen for our next podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. See you, Pearly.